What's up, folks? It is Friday Eve, Thursday night for those always who keep track of the days during the week, and it is episode 57. And tonight, for the first time, we have an actual coach from your city, Philadelphia. From Frankford High School, we have Coach Juan on with us. He'll be on very momentarily with us. And of course, tonight, we'd like to have fun on the show, do the best we can as we do each and every week. And yeah, it's hot outside. Whether you're in Philly, maybe not as much, but it could be. But down here in Tampa, it is absolutely roasting, but that's okay because some of us do like it. And it gives us more time to go out to the beach. So welcome, everyone, to episode 57. Again, we're going to have Coach Juan on. It should be a lot of fun. We will find out everything, what it is to be a coach in today's modern era. So we should have a great conversation with Coach coming up here momentarily. So we will see you guys here on the other side of the intro. I'm Angel. This is Broad Street South. And a couple of guys that we know that we can't do a show without. One being Vito Corleone, also known as Mike Fuji. One of these days, Vito, one of these days, we're going to catch you dancing. I'm telling you.
Hey, I'm waiting for you to get me. What's going on, Angel? Friday.
Not much. Listen, what I would like to know before anybody else comes on, what's going on in Philly? I saw there's like a monsoon earlier today. I went through the area. So is it nice? Is it warm finally?
A monsoon here today. Yesterday it was a monsoon. It's cooling off. It's supposed to be near 80 this weekend. So last couple of weeks it's been scorching, rain, cold, Memorial Day weekend, hot last week. Back to the cooler weather, which is great. So Friday Eve, Coach Juan in the house. The boys are in the back, getting ready to come on. Let's do it. Let's have a great show. How's everybody doing tonight, folks? Sixers basketball, 1-1.
That's right.
Back at it tomorrow night in Atlanta for 2. Embiid looking good. Let's do it.
It's a bounce back, and we said it was going to be a bounce back, and it's a good thing that they did. And maybe our sports contributor can bounce back as well into the screen, into the show, because, well, that's what our sports contributor does. So here is, without further ado, the Juru. Juru, what's happening this evening?
4-2 homestand for the Fightin' Phils. Let's go. 2 walk-off wins in a row, and the dreaded New York Yankees are coming to town this Saturday. And guess who's taking the ball for your Fightin' Phils? None other than number 21, Vince Velasquez. Let's have him bounce back after his subpar start against Washington last Sunday.
See, and that's why I said the professor will bounce back, because he knows exactly where I was going. So good job by the professor. And we can also not do the show without our youngest member of the show, the beat writer, Ducky, also known as Nick Lee. And there's Ducky with sunglasses and all. Yeah. Ducky, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. We got a great show ahead, and can't wait for some of this action. First coach we've ever interviewed, so it should be a good one.
What's up? What's up, Doc?
Let's go on, let's do this.
A lot of fun. And the last person introduced in here into the show before we get to Coach Juan is our national correspondent, Ryan Neff. Ryan.
The Chiefs hat off, please.
The whole Superman thing throws me off. I forgot about that picture, actually. But I'm Ryan Neff, and it's great to be with you this evening. Talking about Sherm up there, talking about Vinny V. Just give up the dream. Give up the dream, Sherm. He's never going to amount to a consistent. Don't even get me started. We got my buddy up there, Mr. Fuji Corleone, my adopted internet sports sensation son, the Duck Man, Mr. Nick Lisi, and of course, above me over here, John Cicada is in the house tonight. So fantastic to have Mr. Juan on tonight to talk some baseball, coaching wise, everything baseball. Let's get into it. I'm ready. I'm fired up.
Well, that's a good way to start the show, exactly being fired up. And if you guys want to follow the coach himself, Coach Juan Namnun. And I know I probably screwed up, but hopefully I didn't, as I see him giggling there in the green room. But if you guys want to follow him just like we do here, it's NA, as I'm losing my voice here, MNUN24 on Twitter. And by the way, let's get the coach's numbers up, because you know what? I'm pretty sure the coach has done a lot for the city of Philadelphia. So how about we get those numbers up? Let's get many more followers to Coach Juan, because I'm pretty sure, and I can tell before the show came on, that he is a very humble gentleman. But you know what? Let's make him more humble by getting those followers up there. And with that being said, it is the coach himself. Coach Juan, how are you this evening?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks so much for having me. You guys are pretty awesome.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
My pleasure, all the way.
We try to have just as much fun as we possibly can on the show. I mean, it's just about cutting up and enjoying ourselves and doing the best we possibly can to make at least a good show. And if once the fun stops, as I always say all the time, that's when the show comes to an end, because you have to have fun all the time, no matter what, even as stressful as your day can be.
Angel,
question.
I got to get his perspective. Juan, tell me my boy doesn't look like John Cicada. Tell me he doesn't look like.
Just another.
Come on, he looks exactly. Throw the John Cicada pick up there, Angel. do like a side by side, and we'll, like I said, we should do a survey. You look like John Cicada. I'm telling you.
We're taking a poll tonight.
There he is.
Oh my God.
Just leave out. Just leave out. Why was it on my face? Why was it on me?
There is a slight resemblance.
A little bit.
There is a slight resemblance. Listen, I love having a good time. I will laugh at anything, including myself. So I'm ready to roll.
Here we go.
That's always good. And a couple people to say hi to here. Tom, what's going on? Ducky, the other Ducky. How are you, Ducky? Along with Bill. Hey, what's up? How's everyone tonight? Bill, thanks for tuning in. David March, I see brand new here. Just finished a nice Vega Fina. Whoa, someone had a nice cigar.
Glad you said that right.
Oh, thank you. I tried. It happens, but I tried. David, thanks for tuning in. And Joey B. Aloha Brossery Sports, still here in Hawaii. Boy, Joey, I tell you what, man, you must be.
How long you been in Hawaii for? It's been like 2 weeks.
He's looking for a new team to root for. That's from what I understand. But is Avalanche or, hey, listen, doing well.
Maybe he's going to the University of Hawaii.
Good
out there.
It's a nice spot.
It's 11:30 right now in the morning.
That is a nice spot.
Must be nice.
Must be.
He's living a dream.
He sure is. But Coach, I want to start off here by, pardon me, once again. I want to start off by saying, like, I know it's, again, we live, the society that we live in now is completely different from when you and I and most of us in the room, minus our young Nick here. When we grew up, you can get in people's faces, you can basically not obviously berate them, but motivate them by being in their face and tell them the things that they're doing wrong, so it can pump them up and motivate them to do things right. So starting from your first coaching year to where you are now, what has been the most major adjustment that you have seen throughout the years, whether it's, again, in your face or finding something a different way to motivate your guys and girls that are on your team?
Well, so to be perfectly honest, I think the one thing that I personally will never do is lower the bar to appease an athlete at whatever level. And I will say I find it a little frustrating when you watch it at the professional level where the bar is lowered because of who certain people are. When I started coaching many years ago, right, in the city of Philadelphia, you were able to drive student athletes, not necessarily physically, but emotionally. You could push people a little bit to get the best you could out of them. And you can still do that. But you also have to understand there's limits with some emotional needs, or even to the point where you got to be careful because you're not sure where students are coming from as far as an amateur is concerned. But I will never lower the bar because of lowered expectations out of worrying of upsetting somebody's feelings. That may not happen. But I definitely think I've grown a little more patient in the last 20 some years.
Well, listen, I know again, it's. I know we live in a world, and you don't have to answer if you like it or not, but I know we live in a world where it's filled with participation trophies. Now, again, you earned your trophy growing up because that's the reason why you joined the team. That's the reason why you wanted to accomplish the ultimate goal was winning that championship. Do you believe, and again, you can answer, you can, plead the fifth if you like, but do you believe that we should just be handing out trophies because kids participate in a particular sport and it may not be because they want to, and maybe because they're told to?
I'm sure this may not be a popular answer. I teach in one of my classes. I teach a lesson very early in the school year to some of my younger students, and I drive to them that I don't know if they realize everything is a competition. Everything in life is a competition. And I hate to be a little cold or a little brass. Look to your right, look to your left. Every single one of these students that you're in class with, you're competing to finish higher than them so you can get more scholarships than them. You're competing to get onto the varsity team with that guy or that young lady. At no point is anybody going to hand you anything because you came every day. Like that doesn't I don't know where along the lines we've started just rewarding being there every day. That's a wonderful thing. Don't get me wrong. I love my athletes that they come every day. But I sometimes, even students or athletes, they feel as though, but I come to every practice, coach. That's wonderful. But I'm not just going to reward you with being a starter or extra playing time because you did what you were supposed to do, right? It's a matter of you need to compete in everything. That is a major part of everything that I have instilled in the culture at Frankfurt Baseball is I don't care what we're doing. You got to want to be the best at it. Otherwise, things get tough down the line. It's not just about the now. So I guess to answer your question as best I can, I'm not a big believer in participation trophies. I believe that everything has to be earned. I mean, certainly, listen, I'll applaud people for trying. I'll applaud people for effort. But you got to do, too. We can't forget about the doing.
Well, that's very true. And before I get into my next question here, so if the next time that you win a championship, whether it's JV, whether it's varsity, and you need a good celebration, again, it's if you just win it on the shelf, grab one from Goose's Breakfast Lounge and Tobacconist because they have some great celebration cigars of every kind. And by all means, just grab one, put up there on the shelf, and just say, Goose has got it. So that way it'll give you at least a motivation factor. Of course, none of the kids.
Yeah.
Over 21, please. None of the kids.
I will make sure to remember that for the kids.
Not a problem whatsoever. But Coach, and it's interesting because as you're saying that you at least teach the kids very early on what it is to earn things. And I think a lot of it is lost because it's so easy now to spoil kids. I mean, altogether, you can give them whatever you want to. You can work 3 jobs if you want to give them whatever it is in life. But it's learning that value of a dollar, learning that value of earning something. That if someone teaches you something, how much you're going to grasp and take that on because you may not move, on to college. Maybe you decide to go into the tech world. You go into a tech school. Because Lord knows we have a shortage of folks who should be in the tech world and the trade world. So it's a good thing that at least that you teach them an early lesson early on so they understand it. And I know you shared something with me before the podcast came on as we asked if you were on other shows. And I know you were on another show where unfortunately the timing of it, as you said, when it came to Kobe Bryant, and the one thing that I guess I would say if he were still alive, it would be a great time to reflect him as far as the time that he had out in Monco, and then having you on. Like we could have 2 great minds together. That would have been so much fun to have you and Kobe on because I say that and I get to it because as the years that you've been coaching, have any of your scholar athletes moved on to anything on a professional level or even on a minor league level?
Oh yeah, our program, and I'm going to use the air quotes, which I hate when people do, but I'm going to use it anyway. We're a small inner city program right in Northeast Philly, which I find fascinating that some people would even think of using that as an excuse. But we have been blessed to have produced pro athletes. Not just I've coached football for a long time at Frankfurt, but we have put out elite level baseball players at the highest levels, where I'm proud to say we've had guys drafted by multiple major league teams. I'm proud to say we've had guys go on to D1 colleges. I'm proud to say that we've had guys go through all that, struggle, and continue to be a productive citizen out in public. So we've certainly had our fair share of successes. We've had our failures. But we have certainly had young men fight the good fight, go through either a year at JUCO and get drafted. And I'd love to do the research on this. I'm probably gonna be wrong here. I'm not trying to insult anybody. I think the last public school kid to get drafted out of Philadelphia is a Frankfurt kid taken by the Phillies. Now he didn't sign with the Phillies because he ended up going to college. But he did get drafted again after that. But I'm super proud of that, because we are just an inner city team with a bunch of hardworking kids. So yeah, we've had some successes.
Coach, if you can talk a little bit about the COVID shortened season and the impact that it had not only on you but your players as well, specifically your seniors.
So can I go backwards a little bit?
Sure.
However you would like to answer it, sure.
I think the single worst thing to happen to a young athlete, not just Frankfurt baseball, last year, most young athletes didn't get to do anything. There was no gym time, no scrimmaging, no skill development. And then we go through a year of literally nothing, and then we come back and only have a half a season. And these young men lost on arguably, and I'm using young men because that's what I coach, but I'm sure, you can put in young ladies or whoever. They lost out on one of the biggest developmental points of their lives. And I think it's funny, because I was going to bring this up later. I think that's why you're seeing so many young pro ball players struggle right now, because they didn't have last year. They didn't have, and I know we're talking about my guys, my seniors that just graduated yesterday, that I'll admit on live internet here, I cried when they walked across the stage, because this class has been through something I could not even begin to imagine. And they went out and competed as best they could this year. So it was a challenge as far as skill development, but just as much as mentally developing an athlete. I think it was devastating to a lot of different people.
So you talk a little bit about that struggle, and you think about fundamentals, and you take a team like the Philadelphia Phillies, who this year they have had their struggles with fundamentals.
Right.
Do the players on your team look at a professional team like the Philadelphia Phillies and say, hey, if these guys are making errors on the field, like, it's okay if we're making errors? Like, how do you, as a coach, use that as a teachable moment if professional ball players are making these lack of fundamentals?
So right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that from the minute we have our first workouts, I will tell a kid, I will never, ever yell at you over an error, but I will get upset if you make a second error immediately after. And the only reason I say that is because whatever religion you believe in, I believe in the baseball gods. And I believe that the minute you show that you've made a mistake and you're afraid of that next moment, you better believe that next moment is coming your way. I don't care what position you play, what moment you're in. If you make a mistake, you're immediately going to get put back in a situation where it's on you. So, yeah, our guys know that making errors is normal in baseball. There's never been a perfect player. But I absolutely use the pros to say, hey, listen, it happens at that level too, but watch the reaction. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have seen guys make a horrible error and still have that composure. And I'm assuming mentally they're about to lose their minds, but you have to use, I will say it is frustrating though, It is, I have learned in my recent years that I can't just point to the pro athletes anymore, like completely blind and say, see, that's how they do it. Because case in point, just today in today's Phillies game, guy drove it to the wall and watched it, and should have been on third. Should have been on third in a game where it was 1-0 or 1-1, and we watched it, which is something that I have taken guys out of the game because I turn, they hit a bomb, I look and they're barely rounding first. I call on a young pinch runner. That's the end of the game for that young man on the bases. So I got to be careful how I use the pros as my examples, but I certainly do. I certainly say, listen, pros will give up home runs. We'll have a young kid throw a good pitch and a guy will hit it 450 feet and immediately the head goes down. And I'll say, hey, listen, in the pros, guys hit home runs all the time off the best of the best. But watch the reaction. Watch that next pitch. But yeah, definitely, I use the pros, but I got to pick and choose what I point to.
Coach, as far as Frankfurt alumni, Jari Evans, Bobby Higginson, Blair Thomas.
Sure.
Do you ever have like any of those guys come talk to the baseball team?
So of course, so Jari Evans is a tremendously generous guy with his time and his resources, and he has been involved in our school for years. And to be honest, sometimes a guy like that doesn't even make it public, and we respect that. Whether it's a new weight room, whether it's scholarship money, whether it's his time, they're definitely involved. Bobby Higginson, a Detroit Tiger great, would have a massive role in our team getting down to Florida every year for years. And then I think we may be the only public school in the entire area that goes to Florida for our own spring training. And that certainly is not a small task financially, because our kids really can't cover almost any of the cost. They work their tails off all year, but that's another point. But yeah, Bobby Higginson has for a long time was incredibly involved in making sure that we had certain things that we needed. Yeah, our alumni is pretty good for sure.
Juan, thank you again for coming on.
My pleasure.
So you played for Frankfurt and you played for Coach Peffel, and then you got, as I think you would say, the honor to be the assistant coach for him. What is something that you learned as a player under Coach Peffel that you like? I guess, what did you learn as a player, and then what did you learn as a coach, and how did it kind of differ? Like, what did you pick up differently?
No, that's a great question, and it's an easy one for me to answer. So Coach Peffel played pro ball, and I had the pleasure of playing for him for 4 years, which not everybody gets to play for somebody from freshman year to senior year, but he had me up as a freshman. And the first thing I learned as a ball player, he says, and I use this every single year still. You have to play like you're being watched. You have to do everything that you do on that field before you step on the field. From the minute you leave that locker room, do you look presentable enough that if a scout is parked out in the street and they see you, they watch you, they see what you're doing in between at bats, they see what you're doing after you make it out. You have to play like you're being watched. And he would drive this home to us. And my senior year, I had some talent, minimal talent, but I had some talent. And I pitched in an 8-inning ball game. We won 1-0. I threw an 8, which is 1 extra inning. And in the crowd was a Philly scout. And he approached me because he was watching somebody else. We had no idea he was there. That was so far from my mind. I was like 150 pounds. I barely threw 80 on my best day. And this Philly scout gave me a bus ticket to Reading and said, we want you to come out and show us what you have at that level. And nothing came from it, but the experience of getting a ticket given to me by a major league scout for a major league workout as an inner city kid. And then I just chuckled the entire time because I had no idea he was there. And all I did was I played like somebody was watching. And in my years of being his assistant and then taking over, and to be honest, it was an honor. It was a dream come true for me personally, coming out of that program, going to college and coming back and assisting him. I have had maybe 6 or 7 times where I have personally seen a scout park in our right field or park in our left field, not even get out of his car. I just know him because I've been around the game long enough. And I'd always tell them, and I don't tell my kids, hey, that's a scout. I don't do that. I refuse to do that. But the biggest lesson that I still use to this day is your behavior has to be the same whether somebody's watching or not, but you better anticipate that they're watching. And I think that's one of those life lessons that he taught me that I'm always going to pass on.
Coach, I'm going to switch it up on here. Switch it up on you a little bit here. So I'm going to throw you a curveball because I was a pitcher, you were a pitcher, and I've got to school my adopted radio internet sports son Nick Lacey with some old school stuff here. Let's talk about analytics, and don't even get me started on analytics because I'm trying to teach, and and Drew up there is a mathematician, and these guys are always teaching me about analytics. And you know what? Get analytics out of the damn game, coach. You know why? Because look, we come from a generation where you had a starting pitcher that went 7, 8, 9 innings. Then you had one reliever or just a closer. And now you guys, they're putting on the shift on the – you know what Tony Gwynn would have done with the shift in the infield? He would have eaten it up. So I want to get your perspective and take on the whole analytics thing because to me – and it's just not with baseball. You see it all over the place. It's basketball. It's football. And I just think that, you guys had your little litmus test. It does not work. Get rid of it. So what's your take on the whole analytics thing?
So I know I'm going to upset some people. I have some really good relationships with some professional people, certain major league teams. I'm going to be very upfront. I am not a fan of analytics the way it's being used today. I think numbers are valuable. I think numbers tell a good story. But in the moment, in playing whatever sport you're playing, in that moment, I don't believe that should be the end all. That is my personal opinion. I know that people get really divided when you talk about old school versus new school, and all. People get really offended when you put people in those two boxes, and I'm sure there's somewhere in between. But me personally, I've had the opportunity to have the tools given to me, and I'm not that big of a believer in having that be a huge decision maker for me. I certainly will pay attention to how a kid hit against another kid the next time around, second or third time we play a team. Of course, that plays in the back of my mind. But in that moment, in any game, I'd like to think that I was built to make the decision in that moment based on what I'm seeing in real time. I was watching the game last night, not to get off on a tangent. Ben Davis made a comment during the broadcast where the catcher in the third or fourth time at bat, one of the Phillies players, and he's staring at his wristband, like looking for it. And Ben Davis is like, the guy already has 4 at bats. He's 0 for 4. There's not much you need to look for. You already know how to get him out. You've done it 4 times, but yet we're still enamored with numbers that, again, I get it, but it's. I believe winning can happen when you just kind of coach in the feel, if you will. Now I know that's an unpopular opinion, but that's just how I feel.
Do you hear that, young Padawan? You're hearing it from a coach now, young Padawan.
I did hear that. But Coach, do you use analytics at all? Do you like? I do. What do you like? How do you use analytics to help your team?
I mean, I definitely. I do love seeing numbers from previous matchups. I definitely love to see as best of a spray chart as we can get. But I use that information, but I won't completely rely on it because I believe in the human element in the moment of playing the sport, whatever sport that is. And it's amazing that you said Tony Gwynn. If Tony Gwynn were who Tony Gwynn was today, I believe he would probably bat over 500 simply by hitting the ball to the left side of the field whenever he wanted to. But yeah, I do use a form of analytics, but just to kind of help me prepare for a game, not necessarily in the moment.
Okay, I can respect that. I think the Rays probably should have done that in the World Series. I think they probably regret not using that. I want to ask you this: what's your most memorable moment coaching? Do you have like a moment where you're like, "Wow, that was insane"?
I have two, if I can give you two that jump to mind.
Yeah, go for it. Sure, go for it.
In my very first year as a head coach, right? I'm a rookie, and it was a big thing for me. And we get to the finals. We win the finals in Philadelphia. And I'm a first-year coach. And I'm like, oh, wow, we get to go on to states. That's exciting. But I didn't expect much. We're a tiny little public school in Philadelphia. And we're playing against powerhouses. And then we win our first state playoff game, which was unheard of at the time for a little public school to play a state powerhouse. And then we move on to the next round. And now we're playing the number 3 state ranked team in the entire state of Pennsylvania. This team, they had like 4 Division I players on their starting 9 roster. And I had a young man on the mound who, sadly enough, isn't with us anymore. Terrible traffic accident. But he was arguably the most talented baseball player I have ever coached. He's on the mound. And he pitches 8 innings. And in today's world, throwing a kid 8 innings, maybe 110 pitches. Whoa, but he was a workhorse. We were the home team, bottom of the 8th inning. We had no right to be in that game. We're losing 2-1. And our leadoff hitter, a young man, Johnny Bracero, small middle infielder, lightning quick hands, takes it to the ribs off a kid throwing 90-91. And I could hear and I'm like, oh my God, he's dead, but it's all right. The kid gets up, runs to first, and I'm like, all right, we got a shot here. It's the bottom of the 8th. We're already in the extras, and I got this kid coming up. His name was Edwin Rohina. Everybody called him Tito. And I'm like, we just got to figure out a way to get ourselves into a position to at least tie this game up. Now, we were playing at LaSalle University, Division I school, gorgeous field, big boy territory. I mean, like 340, 350 down the lines, huge field. And this young man, after throwing 8 innings, gets an 0-2 slider and hits it about 410 feet to right center field, Oppo Boppo, to walk off a win in a game that was so big for our school that it literally changed the tide for the next 10 years in Philadelphia. I really believe that in my heart, that this public school took on this state powerhouse. And there's a picture floating around online where when he hit it, I actually sprinted home. I didn't wait at third. I waited at home with the rest of the crowd. And I'm like crouching like a little kid as he's midair. Because that moment, I wanted to be in that moment with those guys that have been through so much. But winning that game, my rookie year as a head coach against that team that we played, is definitely one that hopefully 30, 40 years from now, I'm still going to remember as vibrant as I do right now. That's definitely one that I can't forget.
Coach, recently you talked about LaSalle University. Recently there was something in the news where LaSalle was cutting their baseball program. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the state of college baseball right now, not the game itself, the administration of college baseball is a tragedy. It doesn't 11.7 scholarships for programs that have 30 and 35 young men that put everything on the line for that school, and schools that are Division I powerhouses that can only give 11.7 scholarships. Now, listen, I have a college football player. My oldest son plays college football. My middle son is on a trajectory to play college football, who happens to be an outstanding high school baseball player as well. So God knows college scholarships are important to our family. I don't understand personally. Clemson, I see Clemson. I don't understand how in the world of finances, D1 programs cannot assistant coaches at that level. So a good friend of mine, his son pitched for Old Dominion this year. He was one of their top pitchers. The Old Dominion baseball had one of the greatest college baseball seasons of all time. Ryan Moore was the young man, the starter for Old Dominion. Joe Moore is a good friend of mine. And I think a program like that with 35 of the best baseball players in the area, and you're only going to help 11.7 scholarships, a school like LaSalle University, tremendous institution. God knows I respect them. They've recruited some of my guys. How can you shut a program down? Or how can you threaten to shut a program down? Temple University, Division I program in the city of Philadelphia, gone.
All right.
It's baffling that we put our priorities in different places. I think financially, I'm sure it makes sense to somebody somewhere, but to me, the actual act of cutting a program at that level, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Juan, speaking of finances, the first game of the season for the Phillies, the Frankford High School baseball team, was featured on NBC Philly before the game. Can you talk a little bit about the generosity of what was donated to the Frankford High School baseball program?
So I have a amazing relationship with the Philadelphia Phillies. I have been associated with them on a million different levels over the last 20, 23 years. And the support that they have given our program and our city, it's not just a Phillies Frankfurt thing. The Phillies have done a remarkable job helping kids in Philadelphia in general. I'm going to talk about what you brought up, but then I'm just going to touch on a couple other things real quick because I have to, because it would be a crime if I didn't. They help support an organization called Pitch In for Baseball, and that's a national organization. And what they do is they collect new and used equipment, make it like new, find programs that need it, and donate a huge amount of equipment to any and all organizations that need it. You just simply have to apply, and that's it. But the Phillies are the ones this particular year that went above and beyond with anything and everything that's equipment, right? Anything and everything. The thing is that people don't realize playing baseball is not a cheap thing. And if you come from the inner city, or it doesn't even have to be inner city. If you come from a background where finances aren't exactly where they could be, bats are now anywhere from $200 to $500, right? $200 will get you a decent bat that may or may not last you a season, right? $300-$400 is the average. A good glove, not a great glove, not a wonderful glove, is $100 to $150. A pair of spikes for a kid that wears a size 10 or 11, it's $100. And you're just talking about 3 pieces of absolutely essential equipment. You can't play without those 3 things. A helmet that you absolutely need, because we can't share helmets all of a sudden. Due respect to COVID, we can't share helmets, so every kid has to have a helmet, $45 a piece. So before a kid can actually try out for a team, he needs to put out somewhere in the ballpark of $500 to $600.
That's insane.
That's a tough sell for anybody who is in any position in life. So the Phillies, understanding all of this, just came out and went all in on all of the programs that needed help. And they just completely go above and beyond with their donations of equipment to help this Pitch In for Baseball and other companies. But they mean the world to us. There's a gentleman that is in the front office, John Joaquin, who has put in thousands of hours to help run the RBI program, which is, reviving baseball in the inner city, because baseball is dying slowly because of the cost, because of the field time, because of the nature of the game. So the Phillies are a really, really important group of people. I mean, I've done a lot of fun things with them, and you could ask away about that, but what they did this year for us was pretty spectacular.
Coach, I just wanted to pick your brain about, I always wanted to go in coaching when I was younger. I just never got around to it. And people always ask me, why did I want to get into coaching? And with all being said about, possibly winning a title or championships, I always used to tell people it's to see young men or women grow and mature into what they could potentially become. And it's the relationships that you have with these people years later. And I just wanted to get, what's more satisfying to you? Like, I know winning is, a product of hard work and practice and having the right people around you. But can you explain how fulfilling it is as a coach to have the relationships with these people years after they leave the program?
I'm going to share a story with you, and you tell me on time. I could be here all night. I may talk your ear off, but I'm going to share.
Fine.
Okay, good. And this story, I may get emotional when I tell this story, but it's going to be kind of like a window into why I really do what I do. People want, like, why do you work so hard to get these kids to fly to Florida? We actually go to Disney World. We've gone to Disney World for 15 straight years now. So I've had kids first time on planes, first time seeing a palm tree, first time staying in a hotel. Like, and all those things are cool and they love it. They're shattered. But I had a kid one time. This is the exact reason why I do what I do. I had a kid, baseball team. I tell them the only rule that I have while we're in Disney World, aside from you better dress like a gentleman, you better talk like a gentleman. All those are hammered in, and never had a problem. You better smile and you better act like you're having fun around me in Disney World, because it is the happiest place on earth. Cool. So we get on Main Street. We're walking here. I have 15, 16 physically imposing young men. And one of these kids that I have a very special bond with, he stops dead in his tracks. He was a young kid at the time. And I'm like, "Are you good?" And he's like kind of staring, but kind of like not trying to stare. And I'm like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm like, what's up? He said, "Coach, I'm going to share something. I'm going to be honest with you. I've never seen a man hold a little kid's hand like that before." And I said, "Oh, well, that's kind of important. That happens." Like, those are relationships that happen. He goes, "Okay." And that week we had a little bond over how families could be. And I'm not just talking moms and dads and kids. Like, that's not the point of this. I'm just talking about how you can treat each other, right?
Right.
The kid goes on, has a kind of career where you kind of like smile and go, "Yeah, we were a part of that." College scholarship, gets to play some baseball. Fast forward a few years, you get a wedding invitation. You go to the wedding. Kind words are said about you. Fast forward a couple years, you get a picture in the mail of that kid with his kid in Disney World.
Oh, wow.
It's not Disney World. That's not the point of the story.
Right.
I think I had an impact on helping a young man understand the value of family.
Yeah.
Right.
And that happens yearly. That is, yesterday we had graduation at Frankford High School, and the senior boys, my baseball players, sprinted around the track to hug me. And I was just off to the side watching, and I was good. I won. That moment, like, I won, because in that moment, I know that I have a kid going off to the Navy. I have a couple kids going off to some pretty nice JUCOs. But we won that moment because they felt enough about me on that day. After they hugged their moms and dads on the field, they came and hugged me, and I was okay with that. Like, I won that moment. And I've been blessed. We've won a few titles, and I've been given some pretty awesome awards. I'm good with yesterday. I'm good with that wedding invitation. That's my why.
Right. And my point to the question was, a lot of people see coaches and they think that's all they do. They just, what I mean? They just see they see the coaches on TV, or they see them and they just, hey, we just show up and, we coach and that's it. Well, y'all have families too. I mean, y'all have the same, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's,
It is remarkable. I'll get an occasional unhappy message from somebody out there. I would love for them. And this isn't me patting anything. Maybe Mr. Sherman, who I know, can attest. I'm a counselor. I'm a dad. I'm a lunch person. I'm a ankle taper. I had a kid split his chin literally 2 weeks ago. I hope my principal's not watching. We had to handle that on the moment. And these are the hats that I kind of have to just kind of, okay, put this, you know what? I'm not your coach right now. What's going on at home? Come sit down and talk to me. And it's not exactly for the money. I'll tell you that. It's not exactly the finances of being a high school baseball coach in Philadelphia aren't exactly, something that I can retire on, but the hats that I wear, as much of a pain in the butt as they can be, there is something to be said about it. But yeah, you're right. People just think I swear, people just think I show up on game days and we magically know where to be and where to stand and when to swing and when not to swing. But no, it's a little bit more deep than that.
I'll share a brief story. Coach Juan is not just a pioneer, pun emphatically intended, for the Frankfurt Pioneers, for the kids. He's also a pioneer for the faculty as well. I'm going to share this story. We had a meeting earlier in the year. It was a Friday afternoon, and there was some conversation going on. And one of the people on our staff typed in the chat box, if everybody just stops asking questions, we can get out of here. And Coach Juan put in the box, no, these are questions that need to be asked. These are people's careers that are on the line. So the impact that he has is not just on the kids, it's on the faculty as well. And that's why he's been a bastion of success for Frankfurt for so many years.
Thank you. I'm not a fan of cutting corners. So, if somebody wants to leave a meeting early, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, when somebody has a genuine question or somebody's trying to learn something, are you kidding me right now that you're going to skip out when somebody's trying to learn something? So yeah, I'm not going to cut corners. I can't get behind that.
Before I get back to the comments here, just from all of us for what you do for the kids and everything else, I know we can't do enough for you, but at least accept this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach, for what you do, because without guys like you and women, it's just not just the men alone, but if you guys don't take a minute of the time, just like any of us, to listen to someone or coach them, just make them understand that, hey, you know what? You may not have received that love at home, but you'll receive it somewhere else. And before anybody gets anything twisted, I'm not talking about, any kind of crazy, genuine love or anything else. I'm talking about being appreciated, make you feel humble. Hey, you're having a tough day. Let me hear what's going on with you. And I noticed that to kind of go with that with Boskim 48 here, he said, personally, I coach to give kids a different alternative to these streets, which goes along with the story. And then Ducky Cornish, actually, who's a coach himself, he stated that, like I tell all my kids, that I help you work hard and play hard. Everything else will fall into place. And I mean, you hear stories, and others come more comments that I want to get back over to as well. But a lot of times, yeah, people aren't heard. I mean, you hear about unfortunate things that happen in schools lately, but you always hear the story beforehand. Well, that kid, he said something to me, but hey, I blew it off. And they all say it. They all say they're going to bring this to school. They're going to bring that to school. And then something happens and someone says, uh-oh, he did come to me a couple of weeks ago. And it should never be where we have to wait for some tragic event to happen to understand where this kid is coming from. Everyone in this world should be loved. Everyone. Does everyone, get that love? No. And again, I'm not talking about, it can be heart to heart. It's just that love that you need you might be having a day where it's just so bad that you have no one to turn to, or something that happened at home. And it's like, I can't talk to anybody else. Can I possibly talk to Coach? So Coach, thanks for what you do.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I'm going to share, and I'm sorry if I'm running long, but I have to share this because what you just said was very poignant. One of the absolute most important lessons that I ever learned in my entire life. I got to college. I was going to play a little college baseball for a school very far away where nobody looked like me. So I showed up with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because I wasn't comfortable. I was out of my element, but that was my only opportunity to go and play a little college ball and be able to go to college. So I showed up, and I must have had a look like F you to everybody around me, right? Like I was a Philly kid, whatever. And I had this professor, and I tell this story every year to my students. He pulled me out of class very early on. It was my psychology professor. And he was like, hey, I just got to ask you something. Did I do something to you? And I'm like, no. He was like, you got this look like you want to kill me all the time. And I was like, no, I'm having a hard time here. I don't look like anybody. I don't talk like anybody. And he goes, well, I don't mean to be a jerk, but you're not the only one with problems. You're not the only one with issues. And I was like, oh, this dude better like back up, like. And he was like, I'm gonna give you a little piece of advice. And as soon as he said that, I almost started tuning him out, but I listened because I was like, all right, I'm in college. I'm supposed to be more mature. Let me listen. And what he said was so profound that I still to this day hold on to it with every fiber of my soul. He said, you need to treat your entire life like you're in an airport and everybody around you is carrying some kind of baggage. You don't know what's in that baggage. You have no idea what people are toting behind them, on their backs, in a duffel. You have no idea, but you better believe everybody has baggage. Some people may have some light baggage. Some people may have some heavy bags, but everybody's pulling something behind them. Don't ever think you're the only person in the airport with a bag, because you're not. Everybody has baggage. And he said it, and I did not sleep that night because I must have treated people like crap for a week or two in August, September of college, my freshman year. And from that day, I always understand that everybody around me at some point is having something going on. And I need to kind of remember that before I lose my mind on a kid for forgetting a sign, for being, a little slow, or for not running. Well, maybe he didn't eat last night. Maybe he didn't sleep at home last night. And for what you just said, I just always come back to everybody's got baggage, and I got to remember that, and I got to make sure I treat people that way, or otherwise we're all going to be in trouble.
No, it's so true. And listen, we were talking about analytics earlier, and I just got a DM from a coach here. So I want to bring up the comment first, because he said, thank you guys. I love analytics too. And I was really surprised that I got it from this individual here, because good Lord, everyone knows that he loves analytics. And by the way, coach, just so you know, Fuji is not only a huge fan of Harry Roseman, he was the biggest advocate for Gabe Kapler. I don't know why, but he was a huge advocate. And I say that with pun intended, because he was not a fan of Gabe.
Listen, Gabe Kapler is a terrific human being. Terrific human being. Some people may not respect his beliefs in the coaching world.
Right.
As a person, he's a top of the line human being that is having pretty good success right now, if I'm not mistaken. So
correct.
Listen, he is, but we've seen it before in Philly. Have we not? We've seen him. It's always before August, September, and then we see that August come around, September comes around, and there's that roller coaster ride. So, and I have no ill will towards Gabe Kapler. I know he tried to do something here in Philly. It didn't work. It may be working for him in San Francisco, so it may not work in one area, but it may work somewhere else.
I mean, I'm pretty sure we can all think of a coach that wasn't super successful in Philly and then went on to Boston and do some pretty special stuff up there. So it's amazing. Listen, baseball and all sports, if you can make a couple adjustments, you're going to be successful. I mean, that's kind of what it all comes down to, right? If it doesn't work here, it certainly may work here doing something a little differently.
Coach, let me hit you with switch to the Major League Baseball for a second.
Sure.
I sometimes reflect. You remember when we grew up, it was basketball, it was baseball, it was football. All the neighborhood kids got together, and baseball was the thing back then. I mean, everybody wanted to play baseball back then.
Sure.
I lost baseball in '94 when they went on strike and they screwed the Expos, number one, because I firmly believe the Expos probably would have won the World Series that year.
Or the Yankees.
Where do you think baseball lost and continues to lose? Because once upon a time when we were growing up,
right,
baseball was the national pastime. Everybody watched. Football was just starting to, in the 70s, become more and more of a powerhouse. The NBA was sort of on the brink of the bankruptcy thing until Bird and Magic came along. But where did baseball go wrong? Where does it continue to go wrong?
I can give you the polite answer, or I can be brutally honest and
I keep it real. We keep it real. Just be brutally honest, man.
I think the next generation has zero ability to hold attention. And if you are a passionate baseball fan, you need to watch every pitch. You need to understand this tiny little chess match that's happening between a couple dudes pitching, hitting, catching. Anybody that loves football, as I do, I'm a diehard Eagles fan. I will watch every single snap. But we need now. Everything has to be right now. I need instant satisfaction. I need this now.
Right.
And that you gotta look at the next wave of young folks in this country that don't have patience to watch. And I think the biggest thing in baseball is games are significantly too long, right? Now I don't mind that. I was at a baseball game 2 nights ago. It was a guys' night out with me and my 3 sons, and it was 11:45 in the 8th inning. And the only reason we stayed is because we're diehard baseball fans, and I'm a coach, so we watch and we break things down. If you don't love baseball, you're not going to watch a 3.5, 4-hour game. You're certainly not going to play it. When one of the hardest lessons I have to teach a young baseball player is, son, you may not get a ball hit to you for literally 2 hours. And on that 2 hour and first minute, when we're up 1 with the bases loaded, you're going to get a line drive hit at you. Are you going to be mentally awake enough to know what to do? And the answer to that is slowly becoming no. Basketball, instant satisfaction. Football, right here, right now. Hockey is nonstop. Back in baseball, you got to love baseball to watch a full major league game right now, because it's literally, and I know the pitch clock is up there. I see it with my own eyes, which has no meaning on anything because nothing happens when it gets to 0 anyway. But you're talking about 3-4 hours. Something has to give there, or this game is going to slowly go away because people can't watch. And if you know what it comes down to, right? It comes down to dollars and cents. When people, when a network can't carry a game because they don't know when it's going to end because they have money coming up on the next show, that's a problem. And eventually there's going to be a point where they're going to stop broadcasting games. But yeah, to answer your question, I think games started dying with the new wave of I need it now.
Yeah, listen, that's true. And I want to bring up, because there's a couple of comments that people made. I want to make sure I bring them up here. And speaking of, if you love baseball, Coach, there's a clip I'm going to show you that I'm pretty sure and it was recent, that I'm quite sure everybody would love. And it was one of those, how in the world did he get away with that one? But I want to bring up, I saw one earlier as I come back through my my clips here. Oh, nope, not that one. Joey, Bill, this was earlier on. He says, congrats on Frankfurt football. You have produced some outstanding athletes. Great job.
Yeah, thank you.
And Joey, be a great friend of the show. He says, Coach, I coach my son's 12U Little League team, see here in Colorado. And he followed us up with, in Colorado, any suggestions on how to help coaches and the patience level being tested? Gets frustrating, but don't want the kids to see that.
I'll tell you right now, one of the things that I've mastered is the walk away, bite my lip, take a couple deep breaths. One of the greatest things I ever heard was, well, what do you coach? And it's not baseball. It's not I coach children. Whatever you think that, I have kids that are on the brink of being pro athletes, and they're still kids. They still do kid things. You got to don't let them see you kids will hang on every move I used to have to keep my sunglasses on because I would squint at a kid. Like, why would you swing at that? So now I keep my sunglasses on at third so they don't see that death look I give them. And they stare, and it's okay. It's just a couple deep breaths and turn away from them for a couple steps. They call time too. You just walk down the third base line a little bit, take a couple breaths, because kids hang on every movement you make. I promise you. And you don't want to. You gotta have to before you turn around and make the next decision for that game.
That's true. And I want to bring up here the clip that I was talking about, and it's amazing to me. And I have to put a disclosure out there. Sorry, Coach, but. So once again, YouTube and Facebook, I do not own the rights to this footage, but it is available in public domain because I already know what's going to end up happening all over again. But you have to put it out there because you have to. But this was amazing to me. It was just a couple of weeks ago. that this had happened. And for those who have not seen this, then maybe you don't enjoy the game, but this was quite amazing.
Yep.
Baez hits it on the ground to third. Gonzalez. This is so good. Oh my goodness! Wow, you got to be kidding me! You've got to be kidding me! They stole a run. You have got to be kidding me, Hobby.
Got to remind me. Got to remind me.
Go! Think you're invisible. El Mago indeed.
I watched that a few times.
I'm a Pirates fan, coach. So
I just put that in our baseball playbook. I literally just
I'm a Pirates fan. Thanks, Angel. Yeah, I've forgotten about it.
No problem. I just want to bring it. Listen, no wounds, nothing else. I just want to bring it up, but that's okay. That's one of those that you think about what happens with a team. And sorry, Ryan, but the Pirates at night.
No, not that night. It's every night.
Listen, here's what I could tell you, right? That poor first baseman. Like, sometimes, once in a great while, even pro baseball players forget how many outs there are. They forget some basic unwritten rules. And that there we talked about teachable moments, right? In the major leagues, there's one of those where people like us, what are you doing? And you just forget that dude just starts running away from you, and your first instinct is, I'm going to go chase him because that's what I'm supposed to do is just go chase him, and you forget that you're chasing him back to home. But it happens. That's Javi Baez being brilliant.
Well, it's kind of funny you told the story before, Coach, about. I'll never forget. I think it was my junior year, and the coach comes to me and says, "You're going to be playing left field today." And I'm like, "What?" Because not all right. Get yourself mentally prepared. X, Y. Tough game. Not a lot of hits. Not a lot of runs. I'm sitting out there. I'm like, man, I'm just standing out here, and is somebody actually? So of course, got your twiddle your thumbs. You're trying to stay as focused as you can. And, of course, we're up 2-1, and there's a runner on second, and guess what happened?
Here comes the ball.
There comes the ball.
Fly ball.
And I had to run to the fence. Now, fortunately, I caught it. Now, he tagged up and went to third because it was a deep shot. But you're exactly right. You can sit out there for 2.5 hours, and you're just like, what in the hell is it going to take for them to hit me the ball?
Right. So, yeah, that play was remarkable from the Cubs.
Before we end up wrapping up here, and Coach, once again, thank you for coming on. It's been great talking to you, and I'm pretty sure it's not the last time we're going to talk to you as well, because as the year progresses back at Frankfurt, we'll get all the updates of what's going on there at the high school.
Be a pleasure.
Good. And by the way, just to remind you once again, if you have that championship moment, don't forget you can get the best cigar at Goose's Mighty Crystal Lounge and Tobacconist. So it's our media partner, and by all means, if you would like to visit them, go up there to Limerick, Pennsylvania, and just browse around. John's a great guy, and everyone who works for him, they have a lot of fun. As he was telling me, that he pulled a prank not too long ago, and it was funny because I even fell for the prank, and then he had to fill me in on the prank they ended up doing at work, but it was a lot of fun. Sorry, Dougie comes in. One more great comment here. It says, I'm not just a football coach and softball coach or football coach. I take the kids to the games to show them how it is done and teach them how to talk the right way. And listen, Dougie, you're exactly right, because that's what you need to do. You never, even if you're not a parent per se, like if you're never able to have a child, or you just, for whatever other reason, maybe you didn't want to have children. But if you're a teacher in a school, if you're a public figure, you're a parent, no matter which way you look at it. As and you have to watch how you end up talking to the kids, because unfortunately today, most modern kids can feel that animosity towards you. So, but listen, everyone can learn a lot, even from just this show tonight. Everyone can learn. So, Dave, thanks for tuning in, along with everyone else. And before we let everybody go, I just want to make one good, quick announcement here. If you guys have not been, as I will pull up the website here, if you guys have not been lately to BroadStreetSouth.com, that is BroadStSouth.com, well, go take a look, because, by the way, what you'll find here is a little icon to a store. And if you click on that store, our store is officially launched. at broadstreetsouth.store, and you can pick up this great merchandise that you guys can see here: women's leggings, men's t-shirts, men's tank tops.
No, I'll be
hoodies,
on that. I'll be
you
on that
name it.
tonight.
Well, I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
But you
Thank
guys
you.
take a look. It's great merchandise. It's bringing basically Philly to Tampa. So take a look around there at broadstreetsouth.com. Again, just go up to their website, click
that a
right
fanny
there
pack?
on that icon, and you'll be ready to go. You can shop away. What's that?
Is that a fanny pack?
Yeah, there's a fanny pack in
Oh,
there.
you know what? I didn't know this till recently. That's coming back big time, man. Like the kids love them.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and especially plus if you're going on a roller coaster ride like down here in Florida, so you go to Busch Gardens, and the fun part is when you go to I wish I could remember the name of the actual roller coaster. So it flies you backwards first, goes forward, comes back one more time before it zings you around, and when it does, if you have anything in your pockets, it's just flying into outer space because the
Space
G-force
Mountain.
is so fast. No, I wish it was, but it's not even that. And I'll remember it after the show is over, of course, always. I need a hat. David, we don't at the moment because we're still getting the hats together. At the moment, we do not have a hat, but it is coming. That's the one thing that we don't have at the moment, only because to get the branding on the hat, if we want to make sure the stitching, all that good stuff looks nice. We don't want to just put something up there and it looks ridiculous. So, but hopefully everyone can visit the website again. Go to broadstreetsouth.com, broadstsouth.com. While you're there, click on the icon store, and or you can go to also broadstreetsouth.store, broadstsouth.store, and take a look there. So, guys, again, Coach, thank you so much for coming on with us tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you.
We appreciate everyone watching the show this evening. We'll be back next week one more time for episode 58. And by the way, folks, we're getting close to camp and getting close to that season. So it's inching closer and closer and closer. So there'll be a lot of NFL talk coming up here the following month, the month
Go
of July.
Birds.
There'll be all kinds of stuff going on. And I'm sorry, what did you say there?
I said go Birds.
Go Birds, huh? Oh, it's a good thing you say that. So there goes your Go Birds. So listen, thanks to everyone watching tonight. Again, for Debbie, the producer out there in Studio B, as I'm here in Studio A, for Nick, Ryan, Sherman, and Fuji. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We will see you all coming again next week. Have a great night and a great weekend.